That was Sarah Holthusen with Seek Ye First. I love that name, Holthusen.
Yeah.
Shout out Europeans and funny names.
Sounds like German or something.
Yeah, so something around about. You, Dr. Rach, you got an interesting last name that's a little bit exotic, a little bit fun.
It's Portuguese.
Portuguese. We'll speak to that in a little bit. But hey, we are stoked to have you in the studio with us, Dr. Rach, to talk about all things holistic health and specifically jumping into the topic of blood pressure today. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your practice, what you're up to, your research, what you've been doing.
Yeah, no, I'm a GP, so I have a very busy practice, 4,500 patients. But I do practice general practice with a bit more of a lifestyle medicine slant. I'm a nutritionist, a herbalist, so I kind of combined all those things into my medical practice.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So you're seeing people every day with their general practice kind of issues, you know?
Absolutely.
Shout out the GP. I mean, I've seen my GP with a number of, I actually, because I've had a GP, I've had the same GP for probably like 12, 14 years now or something like that. This person has seen me at different stages of my life with different issues and different problems and has looked after me. And do you have that kind of same relationship with a lot of your patients?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that I can see them from the time they were born right through to old age, basically. Not that I've been around for that long, but yeah, I've been in general practice for over 20 years now. So
wow.
I've seen a lot come through in that.
4,000 people. That's a lot of people to look after.
Yes, it is.
That's incredible.
That's the case of a country GP.
Yeah,
Wow.
true. Yeah. So you're working as a GP, working in that practice, but also, as you said, you've got this background in naturopathy and herbalism. You know, using these natural aspects of our world and our creation that God has made for us to help people and bless people.
Yeah, absolutely.
How well does that synergize with your role? Because I know they're both in the medical field, but I know there could be a feeling of maybe an exclusivity, a difference in training or something like that.
No, not at all. I mean, God has given us a whole world of natural therapies. And in fact, if you look at some of the research, the suggestion is maybe between 70 to 80% of our pharmaceuticals actually come from nature.
Awesome.
So it seems quite logical. It's, particularly for the milder things that are quite simple. You don't really want to throw drugs at them first line.
Sure.
It's better to use some natural therapies first and then come back to that if we need to.
Well, we're going to see this morning where the rubber meets the road here, maybe where these tracks cross of these natural aspects, general practice, health, and all of these things in the area and the topic of blood pressure.
Yes.
Now, when we say blood pressure, we've usually heard the words high blood pressure, low blood pressure. I'm sure maybe most of us listening have done, the good old blood pressure test where they wrap that really constricty thing around your arm, and either they have one that pumps up with the hand or one that's electronically controlled. But ultimately, let's start with blood pressure itself. What are we looking at? What are we talking about when we say blood pressure? What is it that we're thinking about? What comes to mind?
Yeah, so it's all about pumps and pipes, really. You've got a pump, which is your heart, and you've got the pipes, which are your blood vessels.
Sure.
And so what we're looking at as medical practitioners, we're looking at the pressure. So your heart's pumping, that pressure through the pipe, that is the top level that we see on the reading. And then when it relaxes down, that's the bottom level. And
Sure.
so we like that to be below about what we call 140, over about 90 to 85. I prefer a bit lower if we can. But even if we look at the risk for blood pressure to cause disease, once it starts to go over about 110 or 120, then the disease risk starts to escalate. So even though we've got that cut off, getting it even lower than that is so much more important. So, yeah.
So you're saying here that an increased blood pressure leads to some really negative things. And I can imagine this, like most things working within some kind of range, low blood pressure can also be an issue. But I guess the place where I want to start is asking the question, okay, if we're saying that risks increase as a result of heightened blood pressure, how does blood pressure become heightened? Like, what are the causes of high blood pressure?
Yeah, there's lots of them, but mainly they're from our lifestyles. So if you've got a bad diet and you're eating the wrong things,
okay.
If you're not getting enough exercise, if you're not sleeping well, got lots of stress in your life, if you're overweight or obese, all of these things will put up your blood pressure. There are some other things. There are some medications that can do it, so that's a bit out of your control. There are some genetic factors that will feed into that as well. But primarily, it's all about lifestyle.
It's all about lifestyle. All right, name and shame. Okay, so you're saying bad diet. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, all those really highly salty processed foods.
Okay, so everything that tastes good. All right, no, I'm just joking. But okay, so we're talking about usually the things that are marketed to us as a tasty treat rather than a basic staple. These are the kinds of things. So, and I mean, this is where we talk about the idea of a balanced diet and eating the right amount of good things to enable us to have an overall better health. The area I'm seeing where this is really affecting is blood pressure itself.
Absolutely. And, if we look at what we call the whole food plant-based diet,
sure,
unprocessed foods predominantly from that plant-based kingdom. And in fact, all the superfoods that we use for blood pressure come from that particular diet. And it's also naturally low in salt, and salt is one of the biggest things that will push up your blood pressure.
What are some of those superfoods?
Yeah. I thought you'd ask.
My mind immediately goes there because superfoods to me, like it's something, growing up as a kid, mum would be like, eat this, it's a superfood. And then next month there would be a new superfood. And it seemed like just a rotation of all the vegetables that I wasn't super keen on. But this is a Brussels sprout, it's a superfood. I'm like, Mum, please. Like, I thought carrots were a superfood. I like carrots. But the question I want to ask, is this marketing or is there genuinely superfoods that do an amazing work in this space?
Absolutely. It's research-based too.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to love this.
Awesome.
So what about, I'll just talk briefly about a couple of them. So beetroot and beet greens.
Oh, okay.
They have nitrates in them. And so when you eat them, they produce a nitrous oxide, which dilates those blood vessels and relaxes them down.
Wow.
So they are actually one of the superfoods for blood pressure. And for other things too, but primarily for blood pressure.
I was actually juicing some beetroots a couple of days ago, and I chopped one in half, and I looked at it, and I was like, this looks like a heart.
There you go. It's telling you you're meant to have it for your cardiovascular health.
You are what you eat.
And another one that's really good is pomegranates.
Yeah.
They've been also shown to lower blood pressure as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
And all your leafy greens in general, berries, they're all fantastic for lowering the blood pressure. So that's just a natural way to just add more of those into your diet to improve your genetics.
So your reds and greens.
Yeah, essentially, if you look at all those colours, absolutely.
Okay. So your reds and greens, they're making up this superfood group that can lower your blood pressure. And now you're saying there's some, lifestyle aspects as well in terms of getting out, exercising, that kind of thing. In terms of daily recommends, daily limits, what would you say in that area to lower blood pressure?
Yeah, so exercise, you really want to aim for at least half an hour a day. And two different kinds. You want to aim for the aerobic type, the one that makes you huff and puff. So if you're getting your heart rate up a little and you're huffing and puffing, then you're getting enough of that type of exercise. But the other one's resistance. So that's where you're doing, your resistance bands or body weight exercise, small weights, things like that. That also helps to improve your blood pressure. And half an hour a day, at least 2 to 3 sessions a week of the resistance type, but the rest of it the aerobic type.
Okay, so you're aerobic exercises, getting out, a healthy amount of that. We're talking about diet and exercise here, which a lot of people see as the two main pillars of healthy lifestyle. Anyway, you mentioned some more auxiliary things, the idea of stress, reducing stress levels, getting better sleep, and even, some intake of, some things. I'm thinking like, getting a healthy amount of salt, getting a healthy amount of magnesium, these kinds of things. What would you recommend in that space? Like outside of, your basic diet and exercise, what's the next most important thing that you would say is the go-to to lower blood pressure? Yeah,
so if we're looking at the minerals, so you've just mentioned salt, we don't really have any issue in the Western world of getting enough salt.
Okay.
We have way too much, and so that is not a problem at all.
Sure.
If you look at the amount that we actually need, it's no more than half to 1 teaspoon a day in total. So that's included within the food and anything you add on, and so we often are doing far in excess of that. So that's not a big issue. It's more about reducing that rather than improving that.
Okay.
But there's a couple of other minerals that are really important. One's potassium. Now, the more potassium you eat, the more sodium or salt you will get rid of from your body. So potassium's a fantastic way to help manage your blood pressure. And that's really easy to get from your food as well.
Sure.
So things such as bananas are a fantastic source of potassium.
Okay.
So get into your bananas, and there's a few other foods as well. Bananas primarily up the top there. So
Okay.
and magnesium.
Yeah.
Magnesium is used for lots of things. Our body absolutely thrives on magnesium. But again, you don't need to supplement. It's very, very easy to get that from your diet. So from all your whole grains and your leafy greens, they're all beautiful sources of good magnesium.
I've heard recently that magnesium is one of the largest deficiencies around the world. Is that something you've heard?
It's more of a dietary deficiency.
Yeah, dietary deficiency.
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's because it's primarily found in all the things that we're not eating a lot of. So all those
the
whole foods,
whole foods,
and
yeah.
unprocessed, fruits and veg.
I like to get my magnesium in through my bath salts. I like to have a hot bath multiple times a week. Is that something you would recommend?
Yeah, that's an easy way to get it in.
Yeah.
The magnesium chloride, or there's a couple of different types of Epsom type salts. They do get absorbed across the skin. Great way to relax your muscles and wind down. Great for ADHD kids too, by the way.
Oh, wow.
There's parents out there. Stick them in an Epsom salt bath.
Awesome. Okay, so you're saying follow your Macca's meal up with a banana and you should be sweet.
Well, think about the sodium, saturated fat, cholesterol. Probably not a good idea to start with that.
Okay, awesome. And I love the clarification that you're making here. I'm being a little bit facetious, but the reason I'm doing so is that what we're saying here is no. The way to good heart health is not a balancing of good and bad. It's more so the taking on of good.
Yeah.
Yes, and avoiding the bad.
Yeah, avoid and just saying, hey, this isn't worth it. Like, this isn't worth being part of your life. Cool. Hey, I want to step into the area that you've got a bit of specialty in, which is the herbal side of things. What are we looking at there? Because, okay, so my mind goes to, all right, am I buying like some oregano, chucking it on a spoon and eating it? Like, or is it...
No, we need to use these herbs in more of a medicinal format. So it's you got to get the right dose, the right herb for the right thing. So my number one go-to for blood pressure is actually rosella or hibiscus.
Okay.
It is a beautiful, not the hibiscus flowers that you see growing in most gardens. This is a particular kind. We call it in Australia rosella. And so you would have that as a medicinal tea, but you have to be consistent with it, and it works really, really well. It helps to bring down that blood pressure beautifully. So that's my number one go-to. So it's rosella tea. And the dose that I normally would use, somewhere between 1 and 3 grams a day as a medicinal tea.
Okay. 1 and 3 grams a day. Over what kind of period?
I would suggest indefinitely.
Indefinitely,
so until you've actually really comfortable that you got your lifestyle under control, that you're eating really healthy and you're monitoring your blood pressure, making sure that it has come back down to normal, then you might like to try going off it and see what happens.
So you're saying that this is a case of not necessarily like months and months and months to eventually get the blood pressure down, but rather you drink this tea, the blood pressure comes down, and it's kind of acting as a type of supplement or a type of medication until it is that you change your lifestyle.
Yeah, and we use the same principle when we're using medications.
Sure.
We put the medication in there and then we address all those lifestyle factors.
Yes.
And then we just monitor. And sometimes we can come off the medication. Sometimes people just choose to take the easy path and use medication to control rather than lifestyle
What if
factors.
you really like the taste of the rosella tea?
Oh, you can keep it going.
Does it have any side effects?
No.
No.
Side effects. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Okay,
That is so
awesome.
nice.
The side effects is that it's rich with antioxidants, so it's very anti-inflammatory, helps with weight loss, and it also helps with sugar regulation. So
What?
there are some benefits outside of blood pressure.
So side effects are all good,
yes.
So it's basically the tea version of Ozempic. That's what I'm. Okay, that's a bit of a.
but like
bit of a
better.
I probably
Much,
wouldn't
much better.
compare it
but
with
like
that.
so without all the side effects and all the negative
Yes.
drawbacks.
So yeah, that's my number one. Number two, I would probably suggest garlic.
Okay.
Because it's a very
I love
easy
garlic.
one to get hold of. But if you're having garlic medicinally, it's not about cooking it up and putting it in your food.
Okay.
Oh.
When you chop it, heat it, crush it, all that sort of stuff, you're going to lose the medicinal properties very quickly in those aromatic compounds that are being released into the air. So there's two ways of taking it. The first is just to chew it up in your mouth and it goes straight into you. But I wouldn't suggest that unless you're having, extended socially free periods of time.
Yeah.
But another way to get it is to get it dried. But it has to be dried at low temperatures. So if you're getting medicinal garlic in a dried form, you have to check with the manufacturer to make sure it has been dried below 65 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
I've seen a lot recently on social media, people putting honey on garlic and letting it just sit for a while, and then like taking the garlic honey as a medicine, essentially, like a home remedy medicine. Is that another way that you would recommend?
Well, again, because you've already chopped it, And
No, just like whole garlic cloves
yep.
in a jar with honey.
If you can stomach that, and you'll still get really bad breath that way. But yeah, that by all means, if you're okay with that, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't suggest honey has any particular benefit for the blood pressure in this context, but certainly the garlic will.
Sure.
And 1 to 2 cloves or equivalent dried a day is all you need to get that benefit.
Awesome.
Oh, dude, this is awesome stuff. Guys, we are learning at the feet of greatness here regarding, getting your blood pressure on track. Look, we've got a couple minutes left. What are some areas that you can see just in immediate application for people? Like, what's the steps that people can immediately take? Like, because I'm seeing here, we can suggest as well. Like, you can say, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. But there's probably a mindset shift that needs to come with this as well to keep up with doing all these things. Or like, what's your go-to advice? Like, just out the gate, how can people make this real in their life?
My first point is that we have a creator. In him, we live, move, and have our being, and that's in Acts 17:28. We need to remember that we are created beings, and he can recreate us. So even if you've made a lot of bad choices, God can work with you, and he can help you to make better choices in your life. So always give your health over to God right from the start. If you want to come out of the gate, that's where you would start.
Okay.
After that, you really need to address the stress in your life.
Wow.
So I could throw all of the really healthy lifestyle measures at you, but if you haven't addressed the stress, then that's really going to be counterproductive.
Okay.
So again, spirituality does help with that. But yeah, they just need to address the factors that are really pulling you in that direction.
Sure.
Because you'll still continue to make bad choices when you're under a lot of stress.
Okay. I was going to ask that question. I'm like, do we need to address the stress because we're making good choices and the stress just like ruins all the progress? But no, you're saying it's the stress itself that usually leads us into these kinds of situations and environments through the outcome of bad choices that happen as a result of the stress.
Society's made it very easy for us to make bad choices when we're under stress.
Real.
Things that will just don't it takes time. It takes effort to put your health where it needs to be. So we just need to remember that God's first, manage the stress, and then we can put all those lifestyle factors in.
Awesome stuff. Hey, this is really exciting. And maybe, look, you're listening this morning, and this is the first day of the rest of your life in terms of turning things around blood pressure-wise. If you want any more information, I'm sure we can send you through things here at 0491 064 669. Dr. Rach, thank you so much for giving us lots of very insightful information on how we can get ahead of the blood pressure curve and not let this lifestyle issue and disease rule us here in Australia. So awesome stuff. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.